Okay, we are still focusing on Colorado State social studies standards for eighth graders, Civics 2A, instances of major political change, and we are also incorporating history to a key events and key people. We've just finished talking about the Articles of Confederation and Shays' Rebellion. We are going to discuss the convention in Philadelphia. Congress started this process. Representatives or delegates from the states met in Philadelphia. The original purpose was to improve the Articles of Confederation. Now, who was at this meeting? I like to say that this is a group of 55 white men. Now, let me explain. Most of the people there represented Americans. Most were fairly young. Most had played an important role in the American Revolution. Some were rich. Most were not. But really, nobody was poor. George Washington was there, the most respected and honored man in the country. He was convinced that we needed a stronger national government. James Madison was there. He is now called the father of the Constitution. He's the one that brought the Virginia Plan to the convention. The Virginia Plan is a plan for a stronger national government. Remember, the Articles made a weak national government. And Benjamin Franklin was there, one of the most respected men in America. His primary role was encouraging cooperation, and he supported important compromises. Now, who was not at the convention? Thomas Jefferson and Thomas Paine were in France. John Adams was in England. Patrick Henry, he refused to attend. He suspected that the delegates might try to create a stronger national government, which he was absolutely against. Again, how was this not representative of Americans? There were no women. There were no free black men. There were no poor farmers. And nobody from Rhode Island. There were no delegates from Rhode Island. So, the convention begins. George Washington was elected president of the convention, and immediately there was a change in plans. The purpose changed. The problems with the articles were too great, so they began working on a new constitution without Congress's approval. Remember, this is a weak national government. States had the power. So, the delegates decided to keep everything secret. There were a couple of reasons for this. They wanted to feel free to express their opinions. They did not want any outside influence. They did not want people to know about any of the arguments going on inside of the convention. They decided that each state would have one vote at the convention, and they discussed basic ideas about government. They would make a constitutional government with limited power. They would protect basic rights and promote common welfare. There would be a strong national government. This would be a Republican government with elected representatives. And there would be a separation of powers, checks and balances to prevent the abuse of power. Once we got these out of the way, there was a problem with representation. There was conflict. Conflict really over population. States with small population wanted to have an equal say, equal representation. This was called the New Jersey Plan. The New Jersey Plan called for one house of Congress with equal representation. All states have the same say. The larger population states wanted representation based on proportion, based on population. States with more people should have more votes. This was called the Virginia Plan. This called for 2 houses of Congress with proportional representation, again, based on population. As we said earlier, Benjamin Franklin played a key role in compromises. There was a great compromise, also called the Connecticut Compromise. This called for 2 houses of Congress, a House of Representatives with proportional representation, again, based on population. And this house would develop bills or laws. And there would be a Senate based on equal representation. This branch had the power to accept or reject bills. And later it was allowed to amend bills or laws. So the compromise was that large states got greater influence in creating bills, and small states got equal influence in approving bills. Now, this was not the only problem. There was a problem between the North and the South right from the beginning. The South had an economy based on agriculture and slavery and trade with Great Britain. The North had a diverse economy. They had farmers, fishermen, merchants, bankers, manufacturing, shipping. They had free labor. And their economy was based on competition with Great Britain over shipping and manufacturing. So one of the issues between the North and the South was over protective tariffs. Tariffs are taxes on products imported from other nations. This increases the price of the other nation's products. The Northern position was tariffs allowed American businesses to compete with England, to prosper and grow. Americans would buy American products because the English product would be more expensive. The Southern position was that tariffs would increase the price of manufactured goods from Europe. Tariffs would unfairly benefit the North. England then might turn around and place tariffs on the South's agricultural products. It would make it harder for the South to sell their goods to Great Britain. So, problems over tariffs. There was also a problem over slavery. Many framers of the Constitution, writers of the Constitution, not farmers, framers, were against slavery. But the South depended on slavery as workers and considered slaves personal property. 3 Southern states actually refused to be a part of the new nation if slavery was banned. The North needed all of the states to join the Union. So again, there was compromise. Congress got the power to place tariffs on imports and control trade. And the national government promised not to interfere with the slave trade until the year 1808. In addition to that, as far as representation goes, each slave was to count as 3/5 of a person when deciding on representation for the House of Representatives. So they were counted as property, but they were also counted toward the population of the state, giving those states a little bit more say. And finally, if there were any fugitive slaves who had escaped, if they were found in the North promised to return them to their owners. So, it is a very important time when discussing the foundation of our country. Lots of political changes.